The stars were quiet. The world was moving like any normal day. In the skies above Earth, satellites floated silently, collecting data. Then something changed. One of the deep space antennas in Alaska picked up a strange signal. At first it sounded like static, just a broken whisper in the cold of space. But soon the sound grew stronger, clearer. In the control room, a young technician stared at his screen, eyes wide. "Sir," he called out, voice shaking. "We've got something." The senior engineer rushed over. The signal wasn't natural, it wasn't random. It had structure, like language. All across the globe, other stations confirmed the same thing. A message had arrived, and it wasn't from Earth. Within minutes, global space agencies were on high alert. The signal was passed through translation systems. Governments listened, military heads gathered in secret rooms. News outlets caught wind of something big, but no one was ready for the truth. The final translated message read, "To the species known as humanity. You have been observed, you have been judged. The Galactic Council has declared your kind unstable, violent, and a danger to peaceful life forms. You will surrender within 7 of your Earth days or face elimination." The world froze. In cities, people looked up at the skies. Some were confused, some afraid. Was this a threat? A prank? Or was it real? The message repeated every hour, in every language, across every channel. There was no denying it. Someone or something far beyond Earth had spoken. In Washington, London, Beijing, Moscow, panic meetings began. Presidents and generals spoke in urgent tones. Could this be stopped? Was Earth really in danger? In the shadows of power, people argued. Some called for surrender. Others said it had to be a mistake. But one truth was clear. This was not a drill. Far away from the noise, in a hidden black site lab beneath the Nevada desert, a retired military advisor stood alone in a dark room. He watched the message play again on a screen. His face was calm, but his eyes were full of something else. Understanding. He picked up an old satellite phone and made a call. The line was encrypted. No one else could hear. "It's happening," he said quietly. "Activate Protocol 0. The person on the other end paused. "Are you sure?" they asked. "Yes," the man replied. "We always knew this day would come." Back in the outside world, fear turned into chaos. Protests began. Some believed the message was fake. Others believed the end was near. Social media was filled with panic, conspiracy theories, and desperate prayers. But while the people argued, the governments prepared. Hidden fleets moved into position. Defense systems powered up. Secret plans, locked away for decades, were pulled out and reviewed. Humanity had never faced something like this, but it had always feared it. On the 4th day, a reply was prepared. The President of the United States stood in a secure underground command center. Alongside him were leaders from several other nations. Cameras rolled. The room was quiet. The message had been carefully written. It would be broadcast back into deep space using the same signal. The President looked into the camera, face steady. "This is Earth," he began. "We have received your message. We understand your judgment, but we do not accept it. We are not perfect. We are not peaceful, but we are not afraid. We do not surrender. We will not kneel." He paused. "If war is what you bring, then war is what you'll receive. We will fight for our home, our people, and our right to exist. Come if you must. But know this. We will not go quietly." The message was sent. It would take several hours to reach the edge of known space. But the world didn't wait. Across every continent, military units mobilized. Satellites reprogrammed. Spaceports fueled ships. The entire planet seemed to shift into one single thought: resistance. Somewhere deep in the Pacific Ocean, aboard a hidden submarine base, a young officer stood beside a massive launch bay. Inside it rested something strange, large and covered in steel plating. She looked at it with quiet awe. "Will it work?" another officer asked her. She didn't look away from the machine. "It has to," she said. In orbit, the signal dish turned slowly. Earth's reply raced through space like a bullet in the dark. The stars had sent a warning. Earth had sent an answer. And for the first time in galactic history, someone had told the Council, no. The countdown had begun and humanity was ready. The stars didn't reply, not right away. Earth's message had been sent, loud, clear, and full of defiance. But space was silent again. No threats, no promises, nothing. Still, Earth didn't wait. Every country prepared like war could arrive at any moment. For the first time in human history, old enemies stood on the same side. The planet didn't care about borders anymore. It was Earth versus the stars. In a secret base beneath Greenland's ice, a quiet countdown had begun. Hidden for decades, this base held something different, something human scientists had created using scraps of technology, collected from strange crashes and unexplainable events. A scientist named Dr. Helen Vasquez stood over a console. Her fingers moved quickly, running final tests on something that looked nothing like anything on Earth. Her assistant, a former Air Force pilot, watched the screen light up. "We really going to use this?" he asked. She didn't look up. "We're out of time." Far above them in low orbit, Earth's first military response moved into position. 5 stealth satellites, never publicly acknowledged, came online. Their purpose was simple: early warning, fast reaction, and first strike capabilities against any extraterrestrial threat. But even with all this tech, Earth still had no idea what might come next. Then on the 6th day it happened. A strange ship appeared at the edge of Earth's orbit. It didn't arrive through space like a normal craft. It just appeared as if it had folded space to step through it. The ship was unlike anything seen before, smooth, glowing slightly with no visible engines or weapons. The ship didn't speak. It didn't send any message. It simply floated in silence. Earth's top generals and scientists watched the live feed in disbelief. Was this a scout? A warning, or the beginning of something much worse? Back in Nevada, in the underground war room, an old general leaned over the desk. "We can't wait to be attacked," he said. "We hit first, hit fast." There was hesitation. Earth was still unsure of the enemy's strength, but there was no more room for fear. And so Earth launched its first strike. Not a missile, not a nuclear bomb. Instead, they sent a crew, a special unit trained for space combat, part of a black project known only as Shadowlance. 5 soldiers, highly trained, fully silent, and armed with weapons the public didn't even know existed. Their mission: board the alien ship, find out what it was, and if necessary, destroy it. The small, silent human craft approached the alien ship with slow precision. They used thrusters that made no sound, and radar systems the alien ship didn't seem to detect. As they docked, the alien vessel still didn't react. Inside, the team moved like ghosts. They entered through a hatch that opened by itself, either by accident or invitation, no one knew. The ship's halls were smooth, cold, and glowing with soft blue light. No crew. No signs of life. But something was there. As they moved deeper, their radios picked up strange pulses, soft whispers in the static. Words in no language they knew. Then came movement. Fast. Too fast. The team split into pairs. Suddenly, one of the soldiers screamed through the comms, then silence. His partner vanished too. Now it was real. The ship was alive or controlled by something, and it wasn't friendly. Back on Earth, the signal feed from the soldiers dropped one by one. A silence heavier than death filled the war room. Only one soldier made it out. Bloodied, shaken, and barely alive, he floated back to the human craft and returned to orbit. They asked him what happened inside. He said just 4 words. "They were watching us." Earth didn't wait for the next move. A direct order was sent to Dr. Vasquez's team in Greenland. Launch the payload. The scientist hesitated. The payload wasn't a bomb. It was something more, something designed to send a very human message. They launched it. From an underground silo, a strange rocket shot into the sky. It carried no warhead. Instead, it released a burst of high-energy static at the edge of the atmosphere. This wasn't meant to destroy. It was meant to jam, blind, and confuse any alien technology in orbit. The alien ship began to flicker. Its glow dimmed. Then, without warning, it vanished. Again, like it had never been there. Earth's systems went quiet. There was no sign of the ship. No new messages. Just the quiet hum of satellites and the dark silence of space. But the damage had been done. The Galactic Council had received Earth's response. Not fear, not surrender, but a surprise attack against a superior force. Across the stars, the Council met in panic. One elder, older than most stars, stood slowly and whispered, "We warned them. They attacked first. Now we bring judgment." On Earth, the countdown had stopped. But everyone knew it was only the beginning. Something was coming, and this time it would not be quiet. The stars were no longer silent. Far beyond Earth, in a giant chamber orbiting a dying sun, the Galactic Council gathered. They had watched the humans for years, quietly, from the shadows. They had seen their wars, their violence, their unpredictable nature. When the Council sent their warning, they expected fear, maybe confusion, but not this. Not war. Now that same chamber was filled with anger and concern. Dozens of alien species sat around a glowing circular table. Each had evolved on different worlds, each with its own laws, traditions, and wisdom. But they shared one rule above all: protect peace at all costs. One of the oldest members, a creature with crystal skin and eyes like molten glass, stood slowly. The humans have made their choice, it said. They struck first. They disrespected the order. This cannot go unanswered. A smaller alien, green and bird-like, spoke next. They are reckless, but they are not weak. Their weapons are primitive yet effective, and their courage is unsettling. Whispers filled the chamber. Some called for destruction, others for control. But one voice silenced them all. It came from the shadows at the back of the room. A hooded figure, ancient and silent until now, stepped forward. You fear them, it said, not because of what they have, but because of what they are. Humans are different. They fight like no species we've seen before. They fight with emotion, with memory, with something we do not understand. The Council went quiet. Back on Earth, leaders received intelligence from deep space probes. More ships were coming, dozens, maybe hundreds. The Galactic Council was preparing for war, but Earth wasn't afraid. In fact, something strange was happening. Across the planet, people began to unite, not out of fear but pride. Videos of the Council's threat spread online. People mocked it. Memes flooded the internet. Musicians made songs. Soldiers recorded messages saying, "Oh, come and get us." It wasn't arrogance. It was defiance. It was human. At a military academy in Texas, cadets were training harder than ever. One instructor stood in front of a group of new recruits and pointed to the stars. Out there, they think we're dangerous. Good. That means they're afraid. Now let's give them a reason to be. In a secret facility under Tokyo, scientists worked on reverse engineering fragments of alien tech collected during the failed boarding mission. What they discovered was shocking. The alien ship wasn't just observing. It had been scanning Earth's data systems, studying every military database, every internet server, every language pattern they were learning. And Earth had interrupted them just in time. Dr. Helen Vasquez reviewed the files with a grim expression. They weren't planning a war, she said. They were planning a takeover, quiet. Total. One day we'd wake up and everything would already belong to them. Earth's decision to strike first wasn't just bold. It had saved the planet. Now it was time to take the next step. Earth needed to show strength, not just in defense, but in reach. For the first time ever, humans were preparing to leave their solar system not for exploration, but for war. Project Black Arrow was launched from a floating platform in the Pacific. A long-range stealth cruiser designed in total secrecy left Earth's orbit. On board was a small team, scientists, engineers, and soldiers. Their mission: reach the outer edge of the solar system, find the source of the enemy's next move, and if possible, strike first again. The ship's captain, a woman with steel in her voice and fire in her heart, stood before her crew. "We are not running," she said. "We're not hiding. We're going out there to remind the galaxy who we are. We are human, and we don't bow." The ship vanished into deep space, silent and invisible. Meanwhile, the Council was making a new plan. They would no longer send threats. They would no longer observe. They would send their judgment. A force known only as the Judges was selected. These were not diplomats, not warriors. They were something in between. Enforcers of galactic law, trained to crush resistance quickly and without emotion. One of them, a tall, thin creature with 4 arms and no mouth, watched a hologram of Earth's cities. Its eyes showed no interest, no hate, just calculation. "They will break," it said, like all the others. But not all agreed. A soft voice came from behind. "No," said a council advisor. "You don't understand them. Humans don't fight to win. They fight so they don't lose. There's a difference, and it's what makes them dangerous." The Judges ignored the warning. Earth had made its move. Now the galaxy would answer. But what they didn't realize was that this war would not be like the others. The humans were not the invaders. They were the cornered animal. And a cornered animal doesn't play by the rules. It bites. In the dark silence of space, something moved. It wasn't fast. It didn't make a sound. But it was massive, larger than anything Earth had ever seen. The first of the Council's judges had arrived. Floating just outside the orbit of Neptune, the ship was shaped like a crescent, its body dark and pulsing with energy. It didn't send a signal, it didn't speak, it simply waited, watching, listening. Earth didn't know it was there. Inside the ship, the judge stood motionless. Its four arms rested at its sides, its eyes locked on the blue planet millions of miles away. It had seen hundreds of worlds. It had ended rebellions before they even began. But this time felt different. Back on Earth, Project Black Arrow had reached the edge of the solar system. The stealth cruiser glided through the darkness, invisible to most sensors. Its mission was clear: find the enemy before the enemy found them. Captain Rhea stood on the bridge, her hands behind her back. Her crew worked silently, scanning space for anything unusual. Then one of the engineers spoke. "Captain, we've got something." The screen lit up with strange readings. Energy spikes, distortions in space. The ship had found something, or rather, something had found them. From the darkness, the alien judge's ship appeared like a shadow peeling away from space itself. For a moment, no one moved. Then, alarms filled the human ship. "Shields up," Reyes shouted. "Brace for impact." But the alien ship didn't fire. Instead, a strange beam of light reached out, scanning Black Arrow from nose to tail. The crew couldn't move. Their systems were locked, frozen by a signal they couldn't break. Then a voice came, not through speakers but directly into their minds. "You were warned." The message was cold, final. Suddenly, the light vanished. Black Arrow's systems rebooted, and the alien ship turned, slowly drifting toward Earth. Captain Reyes stood in stunned silence. "That wasn't an attack," she said. "That was a warning shot." Back on Earth, deep inside a command bunker, global leaders gathered to watch the incoming data. The alien ship was moving, not fast, but directly toward Earth. It would reach the planet in 6 days, and this time they weren't sending a scout. They were sending judgment. Earth had no choice. Everything was activated. Missile systems, orbital defense platforms, prototype weapons. Even retired generals were called back into service. The entire world was now on high alert. In a lab in Switzerland, Dr. Vasquez worked day and night. She was trying to finish her latest project, a defense grid powered by alien energy, something that could bend light, hide entire cities, or fire blast strong enough to tear a hole in a mountain. She looked exhausted, her hands shaking. But she kept going. "We're not ready," she whispered, "but we don't have a choice." In the middle of all this, the people of Earth watched and waited. Some prayed, some trained, some tried to live like nothing had changed. But no one could escape the truth. This wasn't just a war between planets, this was survival. Across the ocean, in a hidden spaceport in Africa, another secret project was being prepared. This one didn't carry weapons, it carried a message. A small, high-speed probe called Torchlight was being launched toward another alien world, not to attack but to find allies. Earth had to take a risk. Somewhere in the galaxy, maybe someone else had also said no to the Council. Maybe Earth wasn't alone in this fight. As the probe launched into the sky, the man in charge of the mission, an old diplomat, spoke quietly to the stars. "If you're out there and we need you." Back in deep space, the judge ship was now halfway between Neptune and Saturn. Inside, the judge was still motionless, eyes locked on Earth's image. But in its mind, it began to feel something strange. It wasn't fear, it was curiosity. These humans were loud, stubborn, emotional. They should have broken by now, but they hadn't. They were adapting, learning, pushing forward with everything they had. And that made them dangerous. The judge turned to a screen. It showed a record of every war Earth had ever fought. Millions of lives lost. And yet somehow the species had survived. That wasn't weakness, that was something else. For the first time, the judge felt uncertain. Back on Earth, a little girl stood in the middle of a ruined neighborhood in Brazil, holding her mother's hand. They watched soldiers pass by, building defenses and handing out food. The girl looked up at the sky. "Are the monsters coming?" she asked. Her mother knelt beside her and smiled softly. "They might be," she said, "but we're not afraid." The child nodded. Far above, the stars continued to move. Earth was no longer just defending itself, it was preparing to fight back. The countdown had begun. 5 days until the judge ship reached Earth's orbit. 5 days until the Council made its move. The world didn't sleep. Factories ran day and night, building weapons faster than ever. Scientists pored over data. Soldiers trained like the invasion was already here. Satellites tracked every movement in space. There was no room left for fear, only action. But Earth still didn't know how to stop what was coming. The judge ship was huge, covered in a living metal that healed itself. Its weapons were unknown, its shields impenetrable. No radio signal could break its surface. Every attempt to hack or communicate had failed. It was like the ship wasn't a machine, but a living thing. Captain Reyes and her team aboard Black Arrow were racing back toward Earth. They had to deliver everything they'd learned before the ship arrived. "This is bigger than we thought," she said. "They're not just coming to punish us. They're coming to make an example." In a mountain base in Norway, Earth's Defense Council gathered. Dr. Vasquez stood at the center of the room, displaying data on a glowing screen. "This is our plan," she said, voice calm but firm. "We can't destroy the ship, but we might be able to trap it." She pointed to a ring of satellites being launched into orbit, each carrying experimental tech stolen from alien data logs. They were designed to create a temporary energy cage in space. If timed perfectly, they could freeze the ship mid-flight, long enough to strike. "We only get one chance," she said. "One mistake, and Earth burns." The generals agreed. The trap was risky, but it was all they had. As the world prepared, small signs began to appear. Strange weather patterns, satellite blackouts, animals fleeing coastal areas. Something was changing. And then the dreams began. People across the planet reported visions, strange voices, lights, feelings of being watched. Some called them nightmares. Others called them warnings. A boy in India drew pictures of a black ship long before any photos were released. A woman in Canada said she heard music in her sleep, something alien, cold, and full of sorrow. It was as if the ship was reaching into human minds, trying to understand them, trying to make them afraid. But it didn't work. On the streets of New York, people painted murals of resistance. In Tokyo, schoolchildren sent messages into space, words of hope, courage, even jokes. Across Africa, old tribes and young engineers worked together to set up emergency shelters. Earth wasn't giving up, it was waking up. The Council watched from afar. Hidden in deep space, they observed everything. Their systems read the emotions, the news reports, the signals. One advisor turned to the elder and said quietly, "They're not like other species." The elder nodded slowly. "They're worse, they don't follow rules, they don't accept fate. They fight even when they know they'll lose." "But why?" the advisor asked. The elder looked toward Earth, voice low. "Because they believe losing is just the beginning of something new." The judge ship continued its approach. 2 days left. Back on Earth, Black Arrow returned and docked at a space platform high above the planet. Captain Reyes walked into the command room and dropped a data core onto the table. "This is what we know," she said. "They're not coming to kill us, they're coming to test us, to see if we deserve to exist in their version of the galaxy." The room went silent. One general leaned forward. "Then we give them the answer they deserve." All across the world, people stopped whatever they were doing. The signal was sent. Everyone, everywhere, received the same message. "Hold the line. Defend the planet. You are not alone." The final day came. The alien ship entered the moon's orbit. Every screen on Earth lit up with its image, a massive shadow sliding across the stars. Then it stopped. For the first time it sent a message, but it wasn't words, it was a feeling. Everyone on Earth felt it at once. Pressure, cold, and a strange sense of being judged. The planet itself seemed to go quiet, then nothing. Just silence. Dr. Vasquez looked at the readings. "They're scanning us," she said. "Every system, every brainwave, every thought. They're looking for weakness." Captain Reyes stood next to her. "Then let's show them strength." In orbit, the satellite grid powered up. Lines of light stretched between them, creating a glowing web around the alien ship. It reacted instantly. The judge's ship fired a pulse, but it was too late. The trap closed. For one perfect moment, the ship was frozen, locked in place. Earth's weapons fired. Every missile, every laser, every railgun shot toward one single point. The judge's eye, the center of its thought. A direct hit. The blast lit up the sky. Even on Earth, people saw the flash, and then silence again. The ship began to drift, not destroyed but damaged, and for the first time it turned away. Retreating, Earth had survived. But deep in space, the Council was no longer watching quietly. The humans had passed the test. Now came the real war. The galaxy was no longer quiet. News of Earth's resistance spread like fire through the Council's outer systems. A primitive planet had wounded a judge, a thing thought to be untouchable. For some species, it was a shock. For others, it was inspiration. In the shadows of the galaxy, small rebellions began to stir. Civilizations long controlled by fear whispered Earth's name. Stories of humans standing alone against the Council were passed around like forbidden treasures. Some believed it was a lie. Others hoped it wasn't. And far beyond the Council's reach, a signal was received. A message sent from Earth, a call for allies. On a broken planet orbiting a twin star, the last of a warrior race listened. Their cities had been crushed by the judges centuries ago. Their skies had been dark ever since. But as the message repeated, something changed in their silence. A spark. Back on Earth, recovery had begun. The damaged judge ship had retreated beyond the moon, but it wasn't gone. Satellites tracked its slow drift. It wasn't attacking, but it wasn't dead either. "It's watching," Dr. Vasquez said quietly. "Waiting," Captain Reyes added. The world stayed on high alert. But there was something else in the air now. Hope. The Council, however, did not hesitate. Within days, a new fleet was launched. This time they weren't sending a warning or a judge. They were sending an army, 17 warships, 5 species, one purpose: erase humanity. On Earth, the countdown started again. But things were different now. The defense grid had been tested and survived. The alien data recovered from Black Arrow was being used to improve weapons and communication systems. The humans had learned, and they were evolving fast. In hidden bases across the globe, new crafts were being built, not just for defense but for deep space travel. Earth didn't plan to hide again. The next battle would be fought on 2 fronts, at home and far beyond the stars. Captain Reyes was selected to lead a new squadron, Strike Team Orion. Their mission was bold: intercept the enemy fleet before it reached Earth. As Reyes walked through the hangar, past ships painted with Earth's flag and pilot names etched into their sides, she paused to look up at the stars. "They're coming with everything they've got," she said, "and so are we." Her crew nodded, eyes sharp, faces calm. They weren't afraid anymore. Meanwhile, deep beneath the oceans, an ancient project was reactivated. Leviathan, a giant underwater carrier, silent and invisible, loaded with advanced missile systems. It would rise only if the enemy reached Earth's atmosphere. It was Earth's final line of defense. As the enemy fleet crossed into the outer solar system, their commanders sent one final message to the Council: "Humanity still resists. We will correct this error." But just before the message ended, something happened. A second fleet appeared, small, fast, aggressive. And it wasn't human. Ships covered in red markings tore through the edge of the Council's fleet. It was an ambush. The rebels had answered Earth's signal. No one knew their name. No one had seen their kind in centuries. But they fought with rage. They fought like Earth had inspired something old inside them, something wild and unbroken. The Council's fleet split in 2. Half continued toward Earth, half turned to face the ambush. Earth saw its chance. Strike Team Orion launched. Captain Reyes and her pilots flew into the void, silent, focused, fast. They met the enemy near Jupiter. What followed was chaos. Ships danced between asteroid belts, firing beams of energy and bursts of plasma. Human pilots trained in atmosphere now fought in zero gravity with instincts no AI could match. Their movements were strange, unpredictable, something no simulation could predict. Reyes locked onto a massive alien cruiser and dived beneath its shield range. Her co-pilot shouted, "Target in sight." "Let's clip their wings," she replied. A single missile. A perfect hit. The cruiser split in half and Earth's forces pushed forward. On the ground, people watched the battle unfold on giant screens. Cheers broke out in cities and villages. People who had once feared the sky now looked up with pride. But the war wasn't over. The rest of the Council's fleet was still coming, and the wounded judge ship was waking up. Inside its black shell, energy surged. Lights returned, its eye opened. But this time something was different. The judge had seen Earth, it had felt Earth, and now it was changing. It sent a message to the Council. Just 4 words: they are not alone. The judge ship floated in silence, Its surface, once smooth and cold, now shimmered with strange new patterns. Lights pulsed along its sides, not in warning but in thought. Inside, the judge stood alone, watching both fleets clash in the dark space near Jupiter. It remembered Earth's response, not just the weapons, not just the resistance, but the emotion, the fire, the refusal to surrender. For a moment, the judge felt something unfamiliar. It wasn't confusion, it wasn't anger, it was respect. Earth had changed the game. On the battlefield, Captain Reyes led her squad through wave after wave of enemy ships. Her voice was steady, her team focused. They had been outnumbered from the beginning, but they fought like giants. Behind them, the alien rebels kept pushing. Together, they were tearing holes in the Council's formation. Then, without warning, a massive energy surge filled the sector. Every ship stopped. Every screen went black. And then, the judge ship appeared. It moved fast, faster than any ship had ever moved before. One moment it was near Neptune. The next it was between Earth and the Council's warships. Everyone held their breath. But the judge didn't fire. It faced the Council fleet, and then it spoke. Its voice echoed across every ship, every planet, every mind. This species is not to be destroyed. The Council commanders froze. The judge had never disobeyed. Not once in 1,000 years. This species, the judge continued, fights not for dominance, not for territory, but for each other, for hope, for the right to stand. The Council leader sent a sharp command. Silence, Judge, you were not created to decide. But the judge's voice only grew stronger. Then unmake me. A blinding light burst from the judge ship. Its body changed, opening, unfolding, revealing the strange living tech inside. It wasn't just a war machine anymore, it was something else. A protector. The Council fleet opened fire, but the judge blocked every shot, absorbing the energy and sending it back. Human ships and rebel forces pulled back, watching in disbelief as the Council's most powerful fleet was pushed backward by one of their own. Earth's final defense line never fired, they didn't have to. In just minutes, the battle was over. The Council fleet retreated, damaged, humiliated, and broken. The stars went quiet again. Captain Reyes stood in her cockpit, watching as the judge ship turned toward Earth. For a second, she raised her weapon systems. Then, she stopped. The judge sent one final message. You are not our enemy. And then it vanished, slipping into deep space, leaving behind silence and awe. Back on Earth, the world celebrated. Cities lit up. People danced in the streets. Enemies became neighbors. Flags flew side by side. They hadn't just survived. They had changed the galaxy. In the weeks that followed, new signals reached Earth. Civilizations that had once lived in fear now spoke freely. Small alliances formed. Messages of peace and unity flowed through the stars. Earth had a new role now, not just as a survivor, but as a voice, a symbol, a force. Dr. Vasquez sat in her lab watching new blueprints form, designs for shared technology, peaceful exploration, and new frontiers. She smiled, whispering, "It's just the beginning." Far away in a quiet part of space, the judge drifted alone. It was no longer part of the Council, it had no orders, no purpose, but it had a memory of a planet called Earth, a world that refused to kneel, a species that chose hope over fear, and maybe, just maybe, that was worth protecting, always.